Joining us now is Tony Abbott, who's a retired professor of English at Davidson College and a poet and an author as well. And he's going to tell us a little bit about the Charlotte Writers Club North. So thanks for joining us, Tony.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
You're actually previous president of the Charlotte Writers Club North, correct?
I am. Well, the Charlotte Writers Club North is an offshoot of the Charlotte Writers Club.
Okay.
It's a branch of the Charlotte Writers Club, which was founded in 1922. It's one of the oldest writers clubs in the state. I was president of the Charlotte Writers Club, and eventually what happened is the traffic on I-77 got so bad. The Charlotte Writers Club meets at Joseph Beth Booksellers at South Park at 7 p.m., which meant all of us up at the north end of the county had to drive all that way through rush hour. And a group of us got together from Mooresville, Davidson, Cornelius, Huntersville, and decided that we'd like to have our own programs up here, and we wanted to stay members of the club, but at the same time have a branch that had its own meetings. So we're in our third year, and we have a committee of writers who plan the programs. And
how many in the group, in the Charlotte North group?
well, it varies anywhere from say 20 to 50, depending on who the speaker is and depending on the month. But we have I would say we have an email list of about 50 that we send out emails to that want to receive notices about our program. So we meet on the first Thursday of the month from September through May. We take the summer off, and we have been meeting in an art gallery on Main Street in Davidson, which is called the Sanctuary of Davidson,
right, yeah,
right next to the village store.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lovely place to meet. People love meeting on Main Street in Davidson. They go get their coffee at Summit, and they'll bring their coffee in. And so I think it's been very successful. We've had
you have some great speakers, and we do put them on the calendar every month on our Lake Norman events calendar.
Yeah.
So mainly it's a group that's meeting once a month. And what kind of people join the group? Are they all writers, or are they just interested in literature?
People who tend to come to the meetings are mostly writers. I think if you look at our speakers, we try to have a variety of speakers. We had Anne Leahy, who is a poet from Ireland, a well-known Irish poet. We had Dorothy Allison, who is a nationally known novelist. Her most famous book was called Bastard Out of Carolina, and wonderful, wonderful novels. We've had Don Major from Johnson C. Smith University. We're having in May, our May meeting, we'll have a speaker from Davidson College who writes histories of older people and works with students to help older people write their stories.
That should be very interesting.
So we do poetry, we do fiction, we do nonfiction, we do playwriting. Marla Brown, who is a member, has a space called the Warehouse in Cornelius, and we do workshops at the Warehouse. People can take classes, and so she works in conjunction with us to sponsor, and we'll have some classes during the summer, even though we won't be meeting.
So tell us a little bit about your novels and your poetry.
Your style.
Your style.
Well, I came to Davidson in 1964 to teach at Davidson College in the English department, and I started writing poetry in the early 70s, and I now have.
It's interesting that you taught before you wrote instead
of
vice versa.
Yeah. I had a midlife crisis, and I decided that I had to move from the analytical, critical, intellectual side to the more emotive and expressive side. And so I started writing poetry, and I now have 5 books of poems. And my latest book of poems just came out in 2009. It's called New and Selected. I like to call this my greatest hits album.
Can you read a small excerpt from one? Do you have one that?
Oh, sure. I'm
kind of putting you on the spot there.
No, I mean, I can actually recite a poem from memory, if you like.
Oh, yeah.
Just give us a couple of yeah.
It's a less than a page. Is that okay?
Okay. Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, this is my first book. Whew. My first book was called The Girl in the Yellow Raincoat. It's a book of poems, and it was really dedicated to the memory of my daughter who died very young. And I started writing poems about her. And then The Girl in the Yellow Raincoat is my most famous poem, and I've memorized it, and I could say it to you.
Oh.
It's about a girl who wears a yellow raincoat, who's 18 years old, and who's a student at Davidson College, who reminded me of what I would like my daughter to have become. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So here it is. The girl in the yellow raincoat waits on the sidewalk outside my window. The flower in her hair is wet. She stands very still, her eyes focused upward on some object I cannot see. She does not move, but she smiles slightly. Perhaps she plays the cello, and she is humming Bartok silently, making the bow ripple with her tongue against her teeth. Or maybe she's waiting for a bus to take her to her lover. Or she has read a letter from Paris or Istanbul, and she smells coffee and chestnuts steam roasted. And she hears in the cobbled streets the cries of vendors under the aged curves of bridges. Perhaps she's just a girl, standing in the rain in the early morning by a stone bench while the street shines. It is nothing, you argue. Then why do I weep? And why are there splinters in my palms? And why do I stand here long, long after she is gone?
That's
Wow, that was
beautiful.
fabulous. Gave me
That's
goosebumps.
Yeah, I know. I was still. That is wonderful.
So,
Yeah.
And now tell us about your other book.
So I'll tell you about both these books, because my novel, Leaving Maggie Hope, was published originally in 2003 and won the Novello Award. It was published originally by Novello Press in hardback, and this is the new paperback version that was published by Lorimer Press of Davidson. And Lorimer Press also published my new and selected poems, and I like to talk about them because it's a beautiful, beautiful press, and it's literally 2 blocks from my house. And it's run by a woman named Leslie Rindox, and the associate editor is Allison Elrod, both of whom live in Davidson. So we're very excited to have this beautiful press. And this novel is based on my childhood. It's the story of a young boy named David who is sent off to boarding school at the age of 10 and has to figure out who he is because his family is so dysfunctional. And it takes him through 4 years. He graduates from this school at the end of the book and at the age of 14. And then I wrote a sequel called The 3 Great Secret Things, which takes the story of David from age 14 to age 19 and really gets him up to almost the age of an adult. So
That sounds great. Now, I assume people can buy those at Main Street Books in
absolutely,
Davidson.
I love Main Street Books,
Yeah,
and
we do
they
too.
all know me. I'm in there almost every day, and I love my writing. I love working on the novels and poetry, and really, since I retired at Davidson in 2001, I'm really more of a writer than a teacher, though I continue to go out and teach short courses in poetry and in literature at various schools and churches in the area.
That's
Well,
wonderful.
we're very honored to have you on the show, and beautiful, beautiful poetry, and I look forward to reading your book.
Yeah,
Well,
I
I
do
look
too.
forward to having you read my book, and you can tell any book clubs in the area that I'm very glad to
Well,
come
we're going to
talk
put you
them.
on our calendar. 'cause
Okay,
I
thank
would
you.
love to have you come on.
Thank you so much.
And again, thank you for giving us a synopsis on the Charlotte Writers Club. They have
Good.
some great speakers, and like I said, you can find out more on the lknsavings.com calendar.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.
I've enjoyed being with you very
Thanks.
much.